everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Eunice. In this video, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful gown with side flounce. You see how beautiful our flounce is. This gown has a shoulder princess bustier with a turtle neckline, and the down part of this gown is a mermaid gown, and it also has a basic sleeve. In the course of this video, I'm going to be showing us how to achieve this beautiful gown. I hope this is something you're interested in learning. If this is it, make sure to keep on watching to the end. And if you're new to my channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe and ensure to put on your notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. And let's get right into the video. These are the materials we'll be using for this project. And here I have an off-white satin that will serve as the lining for the black lace fabric. I have 2 yards of this satin and 3 yards of lace. And then here I have 4 yards of black shiny face satin that we'll be using for our flounce, which is going to be at the down part of our skirt. So to get started with our drafting, I'll be drafting the upper bodice first and we'll be drafting on this pattern paper. First, I went ahead to rule my starting line, which is the shoulder line. Placing my tape from the starting line, I'm going to mark the bust point line, which is 10.5, the under bust point, which is 13.5, and then the front half length, which is the front waistline, and that is 17 inches. So plus half inch, that's 17.5. I'm going ahead to mark the point at the other side of my paper so that I can connect with a straight line like this. The next thing I'm going ahead to do is to label the lines. The first is the bust line, the second under bust, and then the half length. So here on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark the shoulder divided by 2, which is half of the shoulder measurement, and that's 8 inches. Still on the shoulder line, I'm marking the neck width of 2.5 inches. Here where I have the shoulder measurement, I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant and then I'll connect it to the neck width of 2.5 here. And then I'll come down by a neck depth of same 2.5. So the neckline is 2.5 by 2.5 because we're going to have a collar on this outfit. Having done that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark half of the nipple to nipple measurement. The nipple to nipple of my client is 7 inches, half of it is 3.5. So I'll mark that on this lines, on all the lines, and then I'll connect it like this. So next I'm going to go ahead and enter the armhole measurement. So placing my tape from the shoulder slant, I'm going to enter the armhole measurement. And to get the armhole measurement, you divide the bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5, and that gave me 7 inches. So I'm marking at 7 inches here. I placed my tape from the shoulder slant. So at this point where I marked my 7 inches, I went ahead to confirm the 8 inches, which is the shoulder measurement. This is for me to have a straight line. And now this line now is the chest line. Can you see that? So now to curve in our armhole to avoid any bulge or any gathering around the armhole area, I got the midpoint of the armhole, and at that midpoint I went in by 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm connecting it back to the shoulder tip. So on the chest line, I'm going to enter quarter of the bust measurement of my client, and that is 8 1/4. So you can see I'm marking at 8 1/4 here, and then I'll curve the armhole to meet that 8 1/4 that I have there on the chest line. And now this is our front armhole. So next we'll go to the dart intake. So to do our dart intake, so this part is our center front. I'm marking half inch on the half length and then half inch at the under bust. And you see, I'll use my straight ruler to connect it like this. So on this side, that this is now the side, the other side is the center. On the side, I'm marking 1 inch on this side, and I also use my straight ruler to connect the points like this. So to curve it to meet the bust point, I'll need my armhole curve to do that. So now I'm going to curve this point to meet the bust point here. But before doing that, I'm going to come down by half of an inch so that the curve will stop at that half inch. Just watch carefully the way I'm placing my armhole curve. So can you see? and I'll repeat the same thing on this side. So now we have tightened the underbust part, that's the down part. So next I'll get the midpoint of this measurement from the neck width to the shoulder tip here. I'll get the midpoint. A very simple way of doing is to fold my tape into two like this, and then I'll mark the midpoint. And then I'm going to connect this midpoint to the bust point. Just watch what I'm doing carefully. So can you see I connected to the bust point. So on both sides of this line, I'm going to mark ½ inch on both sides. So I'm doing a dart intake of 1 inch, and then I'll connect it to the bust point line as well. You see, I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. So now we have done our dart intake of 1 inch on the shoulder line. Having done that, the next thing we're going to do now is to enter all our measurements and replace back our darts. So you can see that on the shoulder, I took a dart of 1 inch. I need to replace that 1 inch. If not, there's going to be a shortage. So can you see I came out by 1 inch at the slant here, and I marked. So at this midpoint of the armhole, you can see I'm measuring what I have there. That's 3/4 inch. I'll replace that 3/4 inch, and at this point I have ½ inch. I replaced it back. Can you see that? So I followed the curve of the armhole. I hope you understand that. So now I'm going to connect these points now. So this is now our new armhole line. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to curve it like this. So this is the new armhole line, and this is it. So new armhole, I just labeled it so that we know we're cutting on this line. So I'm going to extend the shoulder slant to meet the new armhole line. So having done that, next thing I'm going to do now is to enter our measurements, our horizontal measurement. I divided the bust by 4 and I marked it on the bust point line. And then the under bust point line, I marked the under bust measurement divided by 4, and I entered back the dart intake of 1.5. That's I replaced back the dart. On the waist measurement, I'm doing the same thing. Waist divided by 4, and then I marked back the 1.5 inches dart intake I have. So this is me going ahead to connect the points like this. So now having done this, you can as well add your sewing allowance now to this pattern if you want to add your sewing allowance to the pattern paper. But I won't be adding my sewing allowance here. I'll be adding it directly on the fabric. Okay, so that's that. So I haven't added any allowance to this pattern. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the side dart, which is also known as the bust dart, and that's 1 inch, which is the difference between the front half length and the back half length of my client. So you can see I marked 1 inch at the side here, and I connected it to the bust point. And then I just came out by 3/4 inch on this side, and you can see just creating this triangle shape to show that we have a dart at this point, so that by the time we close our dart, we can blend up our line and not have any shortage. So now we're done with our front pattern. We'll go ahead and draft the back pattern. So to draft the back pattern, I'm coming in by 1 inch to create the zip allowance. So you can see I'm connecting with my marker pen. So all my measurements will start away from this line. So right now I marked half of the shoulder measurement, and then I marked the neck width of 2.5 inches. At the shoulder here, I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant. Next, I'm going to mark the armhole, and the armhole measurement is 7 inches. At this point where I have the 7 inches, I'm going to reconfirm the shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches, so that I can have a straight line. So this is now the chest line. Next, I'll go ahead and mark the back half length. And the back half length of my client is 16 inches. Remember, I said her front half length was 17 inches. Okay, so having marked this point, I'm just going to straighten out this chest line. Can mark it all the way to the center back so that I know where it is. And then I got the midpoint of the armhole. I'll go in by ½ inch at this midpoint, just like I did for the front, and then I'll go connect to the shoulder tip. And then on the chest line, I'm going to enter 1/4 of the bust measurement on this line, and then I'll curve the armhole to meet that point. So now this is our back armhole. So here on the waistline, I'm going to mark the nipple to nipple of my client, which is 3.5, which is half of it, right? I marked it on the waistline and I also marked it on the chest line. So I'm doing my dart intake, the back waist dart intake. I marked half inch on both sides, and then on the chest line I came down by half of an inch, and then I'll connect it with my ruler to this point. So now you can see we have our waist dart. So next I'm going to go ahead and enter our horizontal measurement. So on the chest line here, I marked the bust measurement divided by 4. Then on the waistline, I repeated the same thing, the waist measurement divided by 4, and I replaced back the dart intake of 1 inch. So that's that for the back. So now the next thing we're going to do is to take out our bulge, our zipper bulge at the back. So at this zip allowance here at the waistline, I came in by half of an inch, and I'll connect it all the way to the shoulder line like this. Can you see? So this is to avoid any bulge at the back. And then the neckline, I'm coming down by a neck depth of half inch, and I'll connect it to the neck width of 2.5 inches I have here. So I'm using half inch here because we're going to have a collar on the neckline of this outfit. So this is it for our back pattern and our front pattern. So you can see everything is okay. If you want to add your side seam allowance, feel free to add it at this point, but I said I'll be adding it to my fabric. Okay, so we'll go ahead and cut out our patterns and close our side dart. So just watch carefully how I'm cutting out my pattern. So I'm cutting out the shoulder darts like this. I'll take it down to the waistline following the curve, and then we'll cut out this side of the dart, and this is what we have. So you want to be very careful so that you cut correctly. So now I'm cutting on the new armhole line. Can you see? And then when I get to the side, I'm not going to follow this shape. I'm just going to go down straight so that by the time we're done closing our bust dart, we can now blend up the shape. So now to close the bust dart, can you see? I'm just going to pick the dart from this part, the down part. Can you see? I'll fold it and place it over the bust point line like this. Very simple. Can you see that? So you can notice that the point has shifted. So that's the essence of that triangular shape I have there at the side. So you can see that I've taped down the bust dart. So I'm going to blend up this line because right now it's crooked. So you need to blend it up. So I'll bring in my pattern master and just blend up the shape like this. You see? So now we can go ahead and cut out the excess we have here at this side. So this is what our side piece looks like. Can you see? So this is it. So now we have our side and we have our centerpiece. I'm going ahead to cut out the front neckline. Okay, so can you see that after closing our darts, now our front side is aligned to the side back. So once you close the dart, the difference between the front and back, everything will be well aligned. So now I'm going ahead to cut out our back piece. Then I'm going to transfer to fabric. So while transferring to fabric, for this back piece, I'm going to have two pieces, one for the left and one for the right. And then the side piece of the front, I'm going to have two pieces. Then for the center front, I'm going to cut it on fold. I'm going to have one piece, but that will be cut on fold. So this is what our pattern set looks like. Can you see? So like I said, the front piece, the front center piece will be cut on fold, and the side piece will be cut two pieces, and the back will be cut two pieces. So now for the skirt part, here I have my basic skirt pattern. I'm going to be using slash and spread method to achieve this mermaid skirt. So here you can see that I have the front pattern and I also have the back pattern. So now I'm going to get the midpoint of the measurement I have here on the knee line. We're going to be doing slash and spread method, okay? So this is the knee line. I'm labeling the knee line so that we know which point we are working with. So I'll measure what I have here on the knee line and divide it into two. So you can see I'm folding my tape into two, and then I'll mark that point. I'll repeat the same thing on the hem line. That's at the full length here. I'll fold my tape into two as well and then mark the point. So I'll use my straight ruler to connect the points like this. So I haven't connected it. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the back. I'll also get the midpoint and mark and repeat the same thing on the hemline. Okay, so to slash the front piece, this is our front piece. So now on this middle line I have here, I'm going to cut it open. Now this is it. I'm going to cut towards the side. You can see that this is the side, which is the hip side. So I cut towards the side, and this is how I'm going to slash it open. I didn't cut towards the center. So now this is our back here. I'm going to slash it open as well. But for the back, I'm going to slash the two sides. So these are center back. I'm slashing it first. So can you see? But I won't cut through. I'm going to just leave a tiny, like half of an inch there so that it doesn't open completely. So, and this is what I have. So for the back, I slashed the two sides. But for the front, I only slashed the side. So now I'll bring in the fabric we're going to be using to cut our skirts. And then I'll show us how to cut the skirt. So as you can see, I've placed my fabric on fold and I pinned the center front of the pattern paper to the folded part of this fabric. And the width of fabric here I have on my table is 18 inches on fold. So this depends on how wide you want the down part to be. So you fold according to the fabric you have. And here I folded 18 inches. So to get the length of the skirt, I'm going to place my tape from minus 16.5. The half length of my client is 17 inches. I'm not placing exactly on 17 inches because this is our fabric. We need half inch for joining. So that's why I'm placing on minus 16.5. And I'm marking her full length of 63 inches plus 1 inch for hemming allowance. So now to get the side and see that the side is not straight. So I'll also place my tape from the starting line, that's from the waistline on minus 16.5. And then I'm just going to measure carefully. Can you see? And then I'll mark on 63 inches, which is her full length. And then I will mark on 1 inch extra for hemming allowance. So you can see that it's not a straight line, it is curved. So I'm just going to use my the curved part of my ruler to connect the points like this. So if you mark correctly, you're supposed to have a shape like this. Can you see? So I'm just going to blend it into the pattern paper I have here so you can see this is what we have. You see, this is our point. So now I'll go ahead and add my necessary allowance because this pattern paper does not have allowance. So here on the knee line, I'm adding 1.5 inches seam allowance here. On the side of the hip, I'm also adding 1.5 inches. On the waist, I'm adding 1.5 inches as well. So I'll use my straight ruler to connect the points like this. So you just want to be careful while doing this. And then at the waistline here, you can see I'm also marking out what I have there. So I'll connect the line to blend into this line that I have here. And you see? So this is what our front skirt pattern looks like. So at the knee area there, I'm just going to blend in that line. You want to make sure that it curves in nicely. Okay? So with that being said, it's now time for us to cut out our front piece of our skirt. Okay, so here we are. Can you see what our front skirt pattern looks like? Can you see how beautiful it just flares out? So for the back piece, I folded my fabric into two. And then you will notice that the folded part, I didn't place the center back exactly on the folded part. I came in with about 8 inches before placing the pattern. This is because we're going to spread out both sides, both the center back and the side back. Okay. And I've gone ahead to place my tape from minus 16.5 like I did for the front. And then this point is the knee point. So from this knee point, I'm making sure to mark my 63 inches. My tape is placed on minus 16.5, which is the upper half length, okay? And then I'm marking 63 inches round plus 1 inch for hemming allowance. So that's a total of 64 inches. You want to make sure to follow this well. Can you see? I'm making sure that what from the knee, exactly what I have at the knee to the hem, I marked it round so that it just gives me that rounded shape. So let me repeat myself. I placed my tape from minus 16.5. So, and then I marked on 63 inches. So I measured what I have from the knee to that 63 inches, and then I marked it round so that the shape follows each other and they are equal. I hope that makes sense. So this is it for the back. So you can see you want to be careful. I'm confirming it. I want to be very sure that I have my 64 inches. And then I'm going ahead to connect it to my, that's to this the spread I have here. Can you see? And this is it. So I'll also add my sewing allowance to the side. But at the center back, I won't be adding anything because my pattern paper already has my zip allowance at the center back. So there's no need adding anything to the center back. I'm only adding to the side back, and I'm adding the same 1.5 inches like I did for the front. So I'm going to use my ruler to connect the points. It is better to pin it so that your paper doesn't keep shifting. Okay, so I'll blend in this line to the slash line I have here, and then I'll just blend it in nicely. So this is it. So the back is really the same thing. There's nothing too much for the center back. I'm not adding anything because I have added my zipper allowance to the pattern. As you can see, the mark I have there. Okay, so this is from our basic skirt pattern. So if you don't know how to draft and cut a basic skirt pattern, I'm going to be dropping the link in the description box. So with your basic skirt pattern, you can achieve a beautiful mermaid skirt like we are already doing now. So with this slash and spread method, you can actually have enough volume, and it allows you that it just gives you that nice flow and that beautiful shape you want your mermaid skirt to have. So right now I'm done connecting my points. I'm just going to take out my pattern paper and cut out our back pattern. Okay, so now we have our back pieces. So I'm going to notch the center back. You don't want to forget this because you can easily interchange the both of them. You can see that the center and the side are looking alike. So you don't want to make the mistake of interchanging them. So please make sure to notch the center back. And this is what our skirt pattern looks like open. So you can see our two pieces and the down part is flaring out really well. Okay, so right now I've cut out my main fabric and I've ironed my hasty to the upper bodies, and I've cut the lining as well. So you can see that for the upper bodies, I have my lace and then we have the satin underneath, laminating it, and we also have the second lining, and I've joined them together on half inch, which is the seam allowance that we added. And you can see I've also turned the sides, and this is what it looks like here in front. So this bustier is not padded. I only ironed my hasty twice. I doubled the hasty on it because this is what we want for this class or for this project. That's what the client wants. Okay, and this is what we have at the down part. You can see I've stitched the skirt. I use the lining to turn the sides of the skirt so that it's really neat. Okay, I placed the wrong side of the lining facing the right side of the lace, and then I stitched it and turned it in so that the right side of the lace can now face the wrong side and reflect in front as right side. I hope that makes sense. And I've also joined the center back together. I only left my zip allowance open. I've not stitched it. I only pinned it together to indicate that this is where my zip allowance is. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to join the shoulders together. I'll join the shoulders together, and then I'm going to sew my basic sleeve to the armhole, and then I'll stitch the collar and show us how to create the flounce. I've done several videos on how to make a turtleneck collar. If you don't know how to make a turtleneck collar, I'll be dropping the link in the description box. This is so that this video is no longer than necessary. So I'm trying to make it as short as it can be, and you can see it's already long because this is actually a detailed gown. I hope you understand. Okay, so now it's time for us to cut our flounce. So to cut the flounce, I divided my 4 yards of satin into two. So two yards for each of the flounce. So the 2 yards, I folded it into two. So when you fold 2 yards into two, you're going to have 36 inches on fold. And now I'm going ahead to mark a length of 36 inches on the folded satin. This is so that I can have 36 inches in width and 36 inches in length, meaning I'm going to have a perfect square of 36 inches on all sides. I hope you understand. And take note that my fabric is on fold. So I'm using 2 yards for the first flounce, that's the longer flounce, and then I'm also going to have a shorter flounce I'm still going to use 2 yards for. So having marked the point, I'm getting the midpoint now of my 36 inches, which is going to be 18 inches. So you can see I marked 18 inches in length, and then here in width, I'm also going to mark 18 inches. This is so that I have the midpoint exactly, and this is actually the midpoint. So you can see that I created like a cross shape at this point. So at this point here, with this cross I have, I'm going to mark 1 inch on all sides of the cross. I'm trying to create a small circle at the middle here. So I'm marking 1 inch on all sides of the cross. Then I'm going to connect the points to give me that rounded shape, or that round shape at the middle. So having done that, next thing I'm going to do now is to create a curve on one side of this circle. Now you can see that I divided the circle into four, so that means I have 4 quadrants. So I'm just going to pick one of the circle and just create a curve like this. Can you see? Just do that. Just create a curve like that. So now, having done this, having created this curve, I'm going to pick the next quadrant. Now you're not going to pick exactly the one that, can you see, I'm picking the next quadrant, not the one I created that curve on. So and then I'll go ahead and mark the length of the flounce, and I'm using 5.5 for the first flounce. So that 5.5 I marked, I connected it to the curved shape I have. Then I'll go ahead and start marking 5.5 round this circle. I'll keep marking this 5.5 till I get to the end of that's to the end of the 36 inches mark I have. That's to the end of my folded parts. I hope you understand. So now you can see that I've come back to this side here, to this part where I have the curve. Now I'm going to mark the 5.5 inches following this curved shape that I have. So I'll just keep marking till I exhaust my fabric completely. So you can see I'm connecting the point, and then I'll keep marking. So I'll just keep doing this. So now you can see that this is where my 5.5 inches ends. So I can no longer get 5.5 inches at this side. So this part where it ends, I just connected with a straight line, and then I'm going ahead to connect the points like this. So this is what our spiral flounce looks like. So I'll bring in my scissors, and then we'll go ahead and cut out the shape. Remember that our fabric is on fold, so this automatically means we're cutting out two pieces. So one for the left and the other for the right. So this is me just going ahead to pin my fabric because we have two pieces so that it doesn't shift when we are cutting out. You don't want one longer than the other. So I'm just going to pin it, and then we'll cut out exactly what we have here. So as you can see, I'm through with the cutting. So now the down part, you'll notice that the center is really curvy. So I'm going to measure and find where I can get my first 5.5 inches. And then I'll cut out the shape that is not up to the 5.5 inches. So we don't need this part. So can you see what our spiral flounce looks like? It came out really beautiful already. So exactly what I've done here is what I'm going to do for the second flounce. The only difference is that that particular flounce, the second one is going to be 4 inches. This one is 5.5, which is going to be the first flounce, and that's 5.5. The second one is going to be 4 inches. And you can see that we have two pieces here, one for the left and one for the right. So I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. I'll place my fabric on fold I'll place my fabric on fold and cut two pieces, but 4 inches is going to be the length. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and weave the hem and then fold half inch in and stitch it down. I'll also weave the inner part of the flounce. That's the part that will be stitched to the body of the outfit. So here we are. This is our gown. I'm done sewing the collar, and this is what we have. Like I said, I'll be dropping the link to the video on how to make a turtleneck collar. So this is what our gown looks like on the inside. It's really beautiful. I've stitched my sleeves and sewn the collar to the neckline, and I've also shaped the sides with my sewing allowance at the side here. So you can see that the center back is still open. I've not fixed my zipper. The center back is open because we're going to be sewing our flounce to the sides of the front and to the side of the back. So we need this center back to be open. Okay. So to mark the point where we're going to be sewing our spiral flounce to, this is our center back. So now holding the two center back together, I marked on 3.5 inches from the center back. And you see I'm marking 3.5 inches on both sides, and that's the hem of our gown. And you see that? Then I'm going to flip to the front side. I'll turn to the front side and mark the center front. For the back, I came in by 3.5 inches from the center back. And then here for the front, I'm going to get the center front. So all I need to do now is to fold the down part of the gown into two so that we have the exact center front, which is this point. So I'm just using my chalk to indicate, okay? Then I'm going to open up the gown like this. You can see I've opened up the back and the front. So from the waistline, I'm going to come down by 6 inches. From the half length, I came down by 6 inches. So this 6 inches point I have here, take note that it's above the hip line. So I'm going to curve the 6 inches mark to meet the center front mark I have there. So I'm just going to use my free hand to connect this point. Can you see? Just going to connect it. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. I'll curve the 6 inches mark I have to meet the 3.5 inches mark too I marked at the back. I hope you understand that. Okay, so I'm done drawing out the curved line, and I'm going ahead to measure the curved line. So I'm measuring up to this point. So I have 60 inches at this point. I'll mark the 60 inches and continue from there and measure all the way to the hem. So here I have a total of 84 inches in total. I'm going to gather the flounce. This is the longer one now. I'm going to gather my flounce to 84 inches. I'm just going to gather it, which is what I have done here. Can you see? I hemmed the flounce and I wove the inner part. So from this 6 inches mark I have here at the side, I'm going to come down by 1.5. So that's where the second flounce will be stitched to. I'll come down by 1.5. And you see, and then I'm also going to mark it all the way down. So you can see I'm just creating a slight curve. This one is not going to go to the middle here, it's going to go to the side. So I'll just curve it to go to the side of the mermaid gown. That's the side here. So I'm also going to curve it to just go down. So this is basically like straight. It's just like 3 inches away from the side seam of the back. So, and I'm also going to measure what I have here, and then I'll gather my flounce to it. That's the shorter flounce, and we'll stitch it to that side as well. So let me show us how to pin, how I'll be stitching the flounce to the side here. So this is the longer flounce. I'm going to place the flounce right side of the flounce facing the right side of the outfit, and then I'll begin pinning it from the hem. So you can see this is me just going ahead to confirm the measurement I have. You want to make sure that it's the same thing with what you have on the what you have measured on the down part of the gown. If it is more than it, your gathers will not be even, and which is a problem. So you want to make sure that they are equal so that you can make your gathers really even, so that one side is not fuller than the other. I hope you understand. So now it's time for us to pin the flounce to the mark we have created or we have drawn on this outfit. So to pin it, I'm going to get the midpoint. I got the midpoint. I don't want to start from the hem, because so that if it is even and you start from the midpoint, one just goes down and the other goes to the other side. Can you see? So this is just me arranging my flounce. I pinned the middle to the midpoint, that's to the hip line where I came down by that 6 inches. And then you can see that I took it all the way down and I began pinning from that point, following my chalk mark. You want to make sure that you place it on the chalk mark that you have drawn already. So this is how I'm going to keep pinning it, and I'm going to repeat the same thing for the second flounce. Then I'll take it to my sewing machine, stitch it, and then come back and show us what we have. Okay, so here we are. This is what our spiral flounce looks like. Can you see how beautiful it turned out? It came out really beautiful. And you see, and this is what it looks like on the reverse side. So now it's time for us to stitch our zipper to the back. And after stitching my zipper, this is what our mermaid gown with spiral flounce looks like. It came out really beautiful. I enjoyed making this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something. If you did, please make sure to like this video, share this video with your friends, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Also make sure to put on your notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.